Alex woke slowly, his head throbbing as a dim greenish light filled his vision. The first thing he noticed was the cold, metallic floor beneath him, and then the restraints. His wrists and ankles were bound by something that felt far stronger than any handcuff he had ever seen. He tried to move, only to realize the bindings were not just tight. They were alien, pulsating slightly as if alive. Panic gripped him for a moment, but he forced himself to stay calm. Surviving this meant thinking first, reacting later. The chamber around him was unlike anything he had ever seen. Walls of smooth, dark metal reflected faint light from strange crystalline panels embedded in the corners. There were no visible doors, only a faint shimmer at one end, which Alex assumed led out. Every surface seemed designed for efficiency, with panels and devices that hummed with energy he could neither understand nor touch. And then he saw her. The warrior. She stood near one of the walls, tall and imposing, with armor that seemed to shift in color depending on the angle of the light. Her eyes glinted sharply, intelligent and unyielding. A long, sleek weapon hung at her side, and her posture screamed discipline, strength, and a life forged in conflict. Alex felt small, insignificant, and for the first time since waking, truly terrified. "Where am I?" he tried to say, his voice hoarse. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied him with a gaze that seemed to pierce through to his very thoughts. Alex swallowed hard. He could see the faint rise and fall of her chest, hear the almost imperceptible sound of her breathing. Every instinct told him not to make sudden moves, and he obeyed, keeping his hands in view. Hours passed, or maybe it was days. Alex had lost all sense of time. The warrior watched silently, pacing the chamber occasionally, checking instruments or adjusting panels. Alex began to notice patterns, how she moved, how she reacted to the humming devices, how she paused when she sensed danger. He realized that she was more than a fighter. She was a leader, someone responsible for much more than her own survival. He had been taken from a remote planetary outpost. One moment he had been tending communications equipment. The next he was aboard this alien vessel, caught in the middle of a conflict he barely understood. He didn't know who had sent her or why he had been captured. But as he studied her, he realized something critical. Survival here depended not on hiding, but on showing usefulness. The first opportunity came when one of the panels near the center of the room sparked violently. The warrior's head snapped toward it, and Alex saw her eyes narrow. Without thinking, he pushed himself forward as far as the restraints allowed, pointing at the malfunctioning panel. "Panel. Dangerous," he said, hoping she understood. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, in a fluid, precise motion, she walked over and examined the device. Her fingers moved over controls that Alex didn't even understand, and with a final press, the panel stilled. She turned to him, her eyes lingering for a moment longer than usual. He wasn't sure what she saw, but the intensity of her gaze made his skin prickle. Over the next few days, Alex began to communicate with her more deliberately. She spoke in clicks and guttural tones, occasionally mixing in words that resembled basic human speech. At first it was confusing, but he began to pick up patterns. When she gestured toward a console and said "monitor," he learned to read its lights and signals. When she commanded "move," he understood caution, and when she said "stop," he froze instantly. Alex realized that the warrior wasn't just testing him. She was observing him. She was assessing whether he was merely a prisoner, or if he had the potential to contribute. Human instinct had taught him to adapt, to survive, and now those instincts became his most powerful weapon. The first true test came when alarms blared throughout the chamber. Lights flashed red and the floor vibrated under their feet. Alex's heart leapt into his throat. The warrior immediately assumed a combat stance, moving with precision and confidence, her weapon ready. He followed her gaze, trying to see what she saw, but he couldn't. He had no idea what the threat was. Then it appeared. A swarm of small, aggressive drones, their sleek metallic bodies glinting under the lights. They moved fast, attacking with precision. The warrior began to dispatch them with calculated strikes, her movements almost a blur. Alex froze at first, but then something clicked. He noticed the pattern in their attacks, the predictable rhythm of their strikes. He remembered a control panel across the room, one that seemed connected to the chamber's security systems. He shouted to the warrior, pointing toward it. She turned, and for the first time, he saw her pause in hesitation. A fraction of a second, but it was enough. Using all the strength he had left, He managed to move toward the panel, pressing buttons and flipping switches, relying on intuition rather than understanding. A pulse of energy surged through the floor, and the drones were thrown back, sparks flying. The warrior's eyes widened slightly, and then she returned to him with measured, cautious approval. The threat was neutralized, and Alex realized something remarkable. He had just saved her. That night she approached him, not as a captor but as someone curious. She circled him slowly, her weapon still at her side, and spoke in soft clicks. Then slowly she tried a few words in human speech. Saved you? Her voice was almost a question. Yes, Alex replied, exhausted but steady. You alive? Because me. Her gaze lingered, searching, assessing, and something shifted. She had always been a figure of power and dominance, but now there was a trace of acknowledgement. She no longer saw him as just a human to control. She saw him as someone capable, resourceful, and brave. Over the following weeks, Alex's role expanded. She allowed him to move freely under her watch, to interact with some of her crew, and to assist in minor repairs. Each task he completed gained him more trust. He learned the basics of their technology, enough to be useful, enough to prove that humans could adapt to environments far beyond their own world. The warrior began to involve him in missions, not as a subordinate but as an advisor. Her attacks and strategies were precise, honed over years of battle, yet she recognized that Alex's human intuition offered unexpected solutions. He suggested ways to reroute energy, avoid traps, and conserve resources during skirmishes. And each time his advice worked, her acknowledgement grew. The ultimate test came when a rival faction launched a surprise attack on their sector. Alien ships tore through the atmosphere and explosions rocked the station. Kalara, the warrior, acted instantly, coordinating defenses with precision. Alex, however, saw opportunities she might overlook, paths for reinforcements, weak points in the enemy's formation, and ways to protect civilians trapped in the chaos. Risking his life, Alex moved through corridors filled with smoke and sparks, guiding the crew, warning of traps, and ensuring that Kalara's soldiers could focus on combat rather than rescue. At one point, a plasma blast hit near him, knocking him off his feet. Pain shot through his body, but he pushed on, knowing that hesitation could cost lives. After hours that felt like days, the attackers were repelled. Ships were damaged, but no critical losses occurred. Kalara approached Alex, her movements deliberate, and for the first time she smiled, though it was a smile tinged with respect rather than amusement. You, human, saved many, she said, her broken speech deliberate and slow. You, my savior, Alex's heart pounded, captured one moment and now hailed as a savior the next. It was almost surreal, but he understood one thing clearly. Trust, courage, and ingenuity could overcome even the most impossible odds. From that point on, their relationship changed. She allowed him more freedom, sought his input, and even relied on his judgment in critical decisions. Alex was no longer just a prisoner. He was a partner, a human whose courage and quick thinking had earned the respect of one of the galaxy's fiercest warriors. Even as he rested that night, exhausted but alive, Alex realized the journey ahead was far from over. Galaxies full of hostile forces awaited, challenges he could barely imagine. But one truth burned brightly in his mind. He had proven that humans were not to be underestimated, even by the deadliest alien warriors. And for the first time since waking up in that dim chamber, he felt a spark of hope, not just for survival, but for making a difference. He didn't yet know what the future held, but he was no longer afraid. He had earned the trust of Kalara, and she had recognized his courage. From prisoner to savior, Alex's path had changed in ways he could never have predicted. And as the lights of the chamber dimmed and the hum of alien machinery filled the quiet night, he understood something profound. In the vast, unforgiving universe, the human spirit was a force even the fiercest warriors could not ignore. Alex awoke to the soft hum of the ship's engines, the greenish light of the chamber now familiar and almost comforting. He stretched, feeling the aches from yesterday's battle, but also a new kind of energy, one born from purpose and recognition. Kalara, the alien warrior who had once held him captive, now regarded him with something like trust, even respect. He could see it in the way she moved around him, her eyes briefly meeting his before returning to her work. Their journey through the galaxy continued, but the dangers had not lessened. Pirates, rival factions, and cosmic storms were constant threats. Yet Alex had begun to see himself not as a survivor, but as an active participant in their mission. Kylara involved him in planning, seeking his ideas for navigation and strategy, something no other human had ever experienced in this alien-dominated universe. One morning, alarms blared. Alex and Kylara rushed to the command center, where a fleet of enemy ships had emerged from a hidden wormhole. Their formations were precise but not infallible. Alex scanned the displays quickly, noticing patterns in the enemy approach. "Their left wing. Slower," he said. "Use asteroids. Cover." Kylara looked at him sharply, then nodded. The crew adjusted instantly, relying on both her combat experience and Alex's intuition. During the battle, Alex moved among the consoles, redirecting energy to shields, coordinating defense drones, and guiding Kylara's soldiers through dangerous zones. His heart pounded, but he stayed focused. Every calculation, every decision was a matter of life and death. The fighting raged for hours, energy blasts tearing through the void, ship hulls shuddering under impact. Alex noticed a damaged transport ship attempting to escape the chaos, its crew trapped. Without waiting for orders, he directed a rescue operation, coordinating with Kylara's forces. Together, they saved dozens of lives, maneuvering with precision and avoiding enemy fire. When the battle ended, the enemy ships retreating into the wormhole, Kylara approached him quietly. "You, not just my savior, you saved many," she said, her voice soft but firm. Alex felt a flush of pride but also humility. He had risked everything, and the outcome had been worth it. Yet he knew that the universe would not remain quiet for long. Days turned into weeks as they traveled to new sectors, encountering both wonders and dangers. Alex learned more about Kylara's people, their customs, and the complex political tensions that shaped the galaxy. He began to understand that survival was not just about strength. It was about trust, diplomacy, and clever thinking. Humans, he realized, had an edge in adaptability and ingenuity that many alien species underestimated. On one mission, they discovered a derelict station orbiting a barren planet. Reports indicated it contained critical technology that could turn the tide in ongoing conflicts. Kylara led the team, her armor gleaming under the station's dim lights while Alex studied schematics on a portable console. He realized that the security systems were sophisticated, designed to detect even the smallest anomaly. "Let me try," he said, his hands moving over controls with confidence. Kylara observed silently, her gaze intense but not threatening. Using logic and intuition, Alex bypassed the security protocols, unlocking access to the station's core systems without triggering alarms. Kylara's expression softened slightly, an unspoken acknowledgement that the human had exceeded expectations once again. Inside, they found alien machinery, strange devices pulsing with energy, and data cores that held maps, blueprints, and strategic intelligence. Alex worked tirelessly, decoding information that would otherwise have been lost. Kylara watched him, her respect growing each time he solved a problem that her crew had struggled with for hours. Their bond deepened further when they faced a natural threat, a massive solar storm approaching a vital trade route. The storm's electromagnetic pulses threatened to disable navigation systems and destroy ships caught in its path. Alex and Kylara worked together, devising a plan to reroute power, shield critical systems, and guide passing ships safely through the turbulence. As the storm raged outside, Alex felt a strange calm. He realized that despite the chaos, he was exactly where he needed to be. Kylara's presence, once intimidating, now felt like an anchor. They moved in sync, human intuition blending with alien experience, creating a partnership that was almost seamless. By the time the storm passed, every ship in the route had survived and losses were minimal. Kylara approached him afterward, placing a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of trust and gratitude. "Human, your courage. Not ordinary," she said. Alex smiled faintly. "I only try to help." Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, held a softness he had never seen before. "You, more than help. You, strength, hope." The next mission tested them in ways neither had expected. A rogue faction had taken control of a colony, holding civilians hostage. Kylara prepared for a direct assault, her soldiers ready to fight. Alex suggested a different approach: infiltration and negotiation. The plan required patience, precise timing, and absolute trust in one another. Working together, they moved through enemy lines, avoiding detection and disabling security measures quietly. Alex used his human ingenuity to create distractions and mislead the faction, while Kylara led her soldiers with precision when combat was unavoidable. The hostages were rescued without unnecessary bloodshed, and the rogue faction was forced to retreat. Afterward, Kylara stood before him. Her weapon was lowered, her posture relaxed for the first time in weeks. "You saved again," she said. "Not just me, not just many, you changed outcome." Alex felt a surge of accomplishment, but also a profound respect for the warrior beside him. She had once been his captor, but now she relied on him fully, trusting his instincts and abilities in ways no one else did. As they traveled together, Alex began to understand the deeper meaning of their partnership. He was no longer just a human surviving among aliens. He was a force that could influence outcomes, protect lives, and inspire trust. Kylara, in turn, began to share more of herself. Stories of past battles, the losses she had endured, and the hopes she carried for her people. Alex listened, learning not just strategy but compassion, honor, and the complexities of leadership in a universe that often seemed merciless. One quiet night, aboard the ship as it drifted through a star-strewn sector, Kylara approached him again. She spoke in her native clicks, then slowly in common speech. "Human. I see you. More than brave. You part of me, part of future." Alex met her gaze, realizing the depth of what she meant. Their bond had evolved far beyond prisoner and captor. It was trust forged in shared danger, respect earned through courage, and understanding born of mutual reliance. In the weeks that followed, Alex continued to prove his worth. He led missions, repaired alien technology, and guided Kylara's forces with insights no other human could provide. Together they faced battles, natural disasters, and political intrigues, always emerging stronger. Alex saw the galaxy differently now, full of challenges, yes, but also opportunities for humans to make a difference in ways few aliens expected. Their partnership became a legend among the sectors they traversed. Stories circulated of the human who had once been a prisoner, but now stood beside a feared alien warrior, saving lives, changing outcomes, and proving that courage and intellect could overcome even the most formidable obstacles. Kylara, once feared by many, now introduced him proudly as her ally, her trust in him evident in every mission they undertook. By the end of their journey in this part of the galaxy, Alex and Kylara stood together on a cliff of a newly liberated planet, looking out at the stars. The battle scars on the world below mirrored the challenges they had faced, yet the light of hope shone brightly. Alex realized that being a savior was not about glory. It was about action, trust, and the willingness to risk everything for others. Kylara turned to him, her expression a mixture of respect, gratitude, and something deeper, something unspoken but profound. "Human, you?" "Changed me," she said softly. Alex nodded, understanding perfectly. He had been a prisoner once, but now he was a partner, a friend, a hero in a universe that demanded courage. As the twin suns of the system set, casting long shadows across the planet's surface, Alex felt a profound sense of purpose. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but he no longer feared it. With Kylara by his side, he knew that humans, often underestimated, could rise, endure, and inspire hope even among the fiercest warriors. Together, they were more than survivor and warrior. They were a force capable of changing the fate of worlds. And in that quiet moment, looking out at the endless expanse of stars, Alex understood a truth he would carry forever. Courage, ingenuity, and trust could transform a prisoner into a savior, and a savior into a legend.